Hello everybody, Megazord here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video, and for today I'm going to be going through and discussing over Hawkeye episode 3. Now I definitely will say this definitely takes the piece of pie or the piece of cake, whatever you want to call it, whatever sweet dessert you like, over the first two episodes. 'Cause those first two episodes were really kind of like an origin, sort of kind of the backstory, where we're kind of coming in at the sort of kind of angles though. And now that we have all of that established, we're really starting to able to kind of pick up the pace with episode 3, because man, we had a fantastic action scene right in the middle of it. I pretty much loved that. Got to see some connections with some of the villains that we can sort of kind of look at though, and then got that interesting twist at the very end that I sort of been kind of thinking about with the first couple of episodes though. So got a lot of stuff to go over and talk about and discuss with y'all today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight up into this episode review for Hawkeye. Well, starting off at the very beginning of the episode, we got to learn a little bit of backstory for one of our new villains. And we see this little girl, and her name is Maya. And we get to learn that she's deaf, and she's sitting in in the schoolroom, just kind of, kind of filling out her book and stuff, writing through it, coloring, doing some other stuff like that, though. And we learn that, the girl is deaf. So obviously from a very young age. So she already knew some bit of sign language. It looked like the teacher might have thought she wasn't on the same page, but she still sort of kind of understood her to some degree though. But you get to figure out that she has a very strong relationship with her father. And of course, with her daughter being deaf, of course, he knew a bunch of sign language as well, though. So it was just kind of nice kind of seeing them go back and forth, having a very strong father-daughter relationship. And it was interesting, the fact that she even mentioned or asked her dad, it's all curious kids, do dragons exist? And, normally for us, we will say no, though. But in the MCU, it's kind of funny because that is a little bit of a pull from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, because dragons in this universe actually do exist, as her father describes. And technically, yes, they're sort of kind of part of another world. So that is a little bit of an Easter egg tease to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Not sure if y'all were able to pick that up though, but I just wanted to point that out though. Now, fast forward a little bit within the past, she gets older, and we learn that she even has a prosthetic leg. So she's deaf, has a prosthetic leg, but yet is still able to learn all of these mixed martial arts that her father put her underneath. So man, she was thrown down with some of the best. So I give some mad respect to her and all of this stuff though. But unfortunately, while she was away or whatever though, the Ronin does strike and manages to swoop up in there and literally kill off a whole bunch of different crew that her father was associated with, as well as her father himself. And then obviously, she gets sad, depressed, holds her father in those last few moments right before his death. And then that's the reason why she has this personal vendetta against the Ronin, because she took her father's life. But we know Clint is the Ronin. So the fact that he took his life must have meant that the dude must have been associated in some way, shape, or form with some shady connections, or, some ego organized crime. So I know Clint wouldn't go around killing innocent people, so the dad must have, been at fault for something though. But obviously, as a kid, losing your father, no matter what the dude has done, as long as you have that strong relationship, it ain't gonna sit well with you. Thus, she has this personal vendetta against her though. Now, fast forward back to where we were at currently from the end of episode 2. They got Kate as well as Clint tied up to like these them little old machines, them little not merry-go-round things though, but those little things you kind of ride in front of the store at the mall or something like that though. Kind of interesting way to kind of tie them up though, but it is what it is though. So finally, Clint is able to talk to Maya, the head honcho of this one group, and she's trying to kind of piece together everything. Like, wait a minute, you know what? Who's the Ronin? And you know what? If one of y'all two ain't the Ronin, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Ronin isn't back in some way. But Clint was trying to pass off the story that, hey, you know what? Black Widow killed him. In a sense, she sort of kind of did because she brought Clint back to his senses, right after the blimp and stuff. So in a way, he's technically telling the truth. He's kind of putting an interesting spin on it to kind of get the name disassociated with himself. So I do kind of like that. But obviously, that doesn't sit really well with Maya. The fact that the Ronin is dead and also the killer that killed off Ronin is also dead. She was getting a little frustrated and stuff, and then got to the point where she was about to choke out Kate because she was like, one of y'all is lying or something ain't quite adding up though. But then, after that has settled, Clinton was like, all right, follow my signal, Kate, because we're about to get out of here. Cuts his hands off on the back of that little thing he was sitting on, and then he takes off. And then essentially, they start running around and start fighting and stuff. And then Clint actually manages to bust Kate out of there. There was even one little scene where he was jumping off because he was fighting Maya, and then he jumped off, managed to do that traditional slow-mo, shoot an arrow off, managed to partially hit somebody, and then manages to cut the banding that was tying Kate's hands together. So it was pretty cool to kind of see those moments kind of play out in the episode though. But then essentially they run out, they manage to kind of get away, and then obviously here comes the car chase though, but they got to get themselves in a good car. Well, not a super good car, because Kate was like, ooh, let's get over here in this nice fancy one over here, and then Clint's like, you know what, we are not busting up that one right there, come on, get over here and I need you to drive. Surprisingly, Kate, being 22 years old, doesn't know how to drive. Well, probably because the fact that she's in New York or whatever, though. But I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever, though. Anyway, so Clint had to hot wire the thing, and then boom, they're off to the races. And then this is where we get that really cool, interesting fight scene. Of course, we got to sprinkle in that good old Christmas music because it's around that time frame or whatever, though. But the selections that they did choose for it, I would say, was actually pretty good. Like, you get those traditional songs that kind of go with hand in hand with chaos or fight scenes or yada 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 in those Christmas shows. So they did choose some good ones to play out during this car chase scene though. But it was really funny kind of seeing the personalities of Kate as well as Clint kind of go back and forth though. Mind you, this is all going down while Clint had a busted hearing aid because Maya, stomped on it. So Kate was trying to talk to him in some moments though, but Clint couldn't fully make out exactly what she was saying though. And then you obviously had this girl shooting trick arrows, didn't even know which ones they were because they're not labeled or anything like that though. So it was kind of funny just kind of having her go through and just kind of shoot out different things, not knowing exactly what she was doing. She even shot out one that had like some purple gunk or something like that that just kind of formed up on the dude's window. And she was like, what, is this a Play-Doh arrow or something like that? And then of course shot those traditional ones where it's like the bomb on it, and then shoots up the car and stuff in the air though. So yeah, so it was really interesting kind of seeing this this car chase play out. And the one super interesting thing, I did not know who Clint even had this, was the fact that he was like, all right, follow my lead. And he was like, all right, so I want you, Kate, to shoot an arrow up, and at the right time I'm going to shoot my arrow to hit your arrow. And it basically pulled like an Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it's like he basically enlarged the arrow and it fell down on top of a truck and then just completely annihilated the thing. I was like, what the heck, Clint? I was like, I know you retired and stuff, so where are these new arrows coming from? I was like, okay, apparently I missed some stuff, but I was like, all right, I see you. But anyway, and also there was like one arrow that Kate also shot where it's like a plunger arrow. She's like, what the heck is that gonna do? You learn a little later that once they were trying to get away from them because they almost got trapped on the bridge, he literally has to snatch that plunger arrow off of the previous car that she shot it at, take it, jump with Kate over off the bridge, shoots a grappling hook from the bow, and it swings up underneath there, catches the train, and uses the plunger arrow to stick tied up on it. I was like, oh shoot. So that scene right there was pretty sick. And then now Kate finally understands the use of, no arrow is a bad arrow. Every arrow has a purpose though. But yeah, so honestly, a really cool, sick little scene right there. So I really did enjoy that though. Now, a little later on, once, all of that intense action has settled, Clint was trying to talk to one of his kids, his youngest son, Nathaniel, and of course, his hearing aid is still busted, so he has to kind of rely on Kate to assist him. So he saw Kate over there just kind of writing out a short little synopsis of what he was saying, though. And the one thing that really kind of struck and hit home a little bit was the fact that he was like, "Oh, it's okay, Dad, if you're not home for Christmas, though." But that kind of gets him sad and stuff. And he's like, "You know what?" I was like, "Man, I really need to get done with this crap so I can make it back home with my family, though." So later on in the morning, they decided, okay, we got to get this hearing aid fixed because Clint can't be operating with Kate and be talking a bunch of sign language, and he doesn't even know that much to begin with. Kate doesn't understand it at all, so they got to get that hearing aid fixed though. But while they're having breakfast and stuff, it was really interesting because it's not even just in this one scene, but it's like for the whole length of the episode though. You got to hear Clint from his point of perspective, where once he lost his hearing aid, it sounded like like you were him in his shoes, where you couldn't exactly hear and make out everything else that Kate or some of the other people around were saying because of it sounded like you were underwater. But I did like that sense of immersion that they sort of kind of gave to you. It was good chunks of that, like we're talking about like maybe 30 seconds or so or more, where Clint was just kind of just looking at Kate and trying to make out what she was saying, but couldn't fully make it out though. And then eventually he manages to turn on his hearing aid because it's now all fixed and stuff, and it's back to normal though. Now, one interesting conversation that they're having during breakfast was Clint could use a flashier costume, something with, and she has some sketches that she drew out though. But basically, one where it's like a big old H drawn up on there though, kind of rocking some different colors and stuff like that. But Clint was trying to break it down to her. It's like, hey, you know what? For most of my life, while I was active as a hero, I was supposed to be like in the shadows. I wasn't supposed to be drawing a bunch of attention. And him as well as Black Widow, they were sort of kind of basically like that. You didn't see either one of those two have flashy costumes. They were just kind of like all in black for the most part though. But Kate was like, oh man, but wouldn't it be cool though? Because that she has that extreme admiration for him, because to her he's a role model. But that's one thing Clint was trying to explain. He's like, I am no role model, especially knowing his dark past as him being the Ronin and how dark he really went during the events of the blimp. But she was like, no, you're wrong. Because the fact that you're going to come out and help me, help a complete stranger, when you could have been at home for Christmas because this stranger had a potential to be hurt, and you went out of your way to risk your own life to try to protect a complete stranger, that's something very admirable, something that you can look up to as a potential role model. And she was just trying to point that out to him. So it was really nice to kind of have them have like a sort of kind of heart to heart moment right there, because it's really interesting because Hawkeye doesn't get the most kind of flash or glamour or anything like that though, but the stuff that he does do is really nice, really interesting, and very sincere, because he does things with a purpose. And it's kind of sad that most people don't normally kind of gravitate to him or give him the time of attention or the day, even though he's a hero like any of the other Avengers that are out there. So, in order for them to figure out more about the tracksuits and, Maya and her organization and stuff, and to figure out the greater issues, because even Clint mentioned to Kate that, hey, you know what? Maya is just like a small little pawn, and there's people higher up than her that is organizing all these different crimes and stuff like that. So in order to piece together all of these puzzle pieces, they decided to go ahead and infiltrate Kate's mom's security. So she decided, head back home, to log in on her laptop and stuff, to be able to kind of get up in there, because with their company being associated with security, they might have had some kind of records or details of anything about the tracksuits and all of this other craziness that's happening in New York at the moment, though. But in the midst of all of this, as always, Clint decides to take a look around just to make sure that they're completely home, alone, and stuff like this, and there ain't any other surprising threats. But unfortunately, he rolled the dice a little wrong. Didn't manage to roll a 7 or anything like that. But Clint managed to run face to face with arm on, and that's essentially where the episode ends. The dude was like holding out a sword and he's like, do not move, and that's where it ends. So I was like, oh goodness. So episode 4 is going to get things really interesting, because finally you're probably going to see Kate pop around the corner and be like, what the heck? Or maybe, I don't know, Armand manages to take Hawkeye away and then they have a talk or something like that. But this basically confirms that Armand did have some shady connections and stuff, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what kind of angle he's working, because the fact that he sort of kind of got surprised at the black auction makes me think he doesn't have any maybe direct correlations with the tracksuits, but maybe he has some other connections with a different group that we might be about to see here in just the next few episodes or something like that, though. So it does kind of gets the ball kind of spinning in terms of predictions of who's the real antagonist and something like that. And I will go ahead and put this out there though, way back, it was either in episode 1 or episode 2 where we saw where Kate was talking to her mom, is like, wait, what's up with all these extra swords and stuff like that? And she's like, there's been some changes. There's something about that one little scene that didn't seem quite right with me. I would not be surprised if Kate's mom was sort of kind of wrapped up with this organized crime as well, which would kind of make sense why Jack kind of has like, kind of like a attraction to Kate's mom. So I just put that out there. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. That's all. But between Kate's mom, Jack himself, and then you got Maya and stuff like that, we're starting to kind of get some things kind of, get the ball rolling with some of these other potential antagonists, though. Not sure exactly who's at the very, very top. Could be Kate's mom for all we know, but I'm just putting it out there though. So overall, this was a really good episode. Really loved the action scene and stuff like that. Get to learn a little bit more about Maya's backstory and why Maya and her brother are so kind of bent on trying to get revenge, more so Maya than her brother or something like that, because the brother kind of values the crew higher than potentially them getting that revenge for their dad. But yeah, so that's basically all I have to say on this episode though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all did you think about this episode, and are you really looking forward to the events that are happening within episode 4, and who do you think is the real mastermind behind all of these different organized crimes? Who's higher up than Maya on the totem pole in terms of calling all the shots every which way though? But y'all just gotta let me know. So that's gonna do it for this review though. So if you really like this video, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things Hawkeye that I feel like talking about and discussing for the rest of this series, y'all. So remember, y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.